His name is Jahan Dotson, and now you know. A few moments earlier, I will reveal this breakout wide receiver you see on screen on the other side of the intro. The Fantasy Football Show begins right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty. Take a lap.
This guy right here, Jahan Dotson, so much potential. The ability to be the next Antonio Brown, the ability to be really what we wanted McLaurin to be for so many years, but without a quarterback, McLaurin never developed. McLaurin will still be good in 2023. So will Dotson, which means that Sam Howell is going to probably be a pretty good quarterback in 2023. And you guys know this because I talk Sam Howell up all the time. He's the biggest rags to riches quarterback in fantasy football. A lot of risk if you drafted him high. You don't have to draft him high. So the risk isn't really something you take on, but I mean, is there a chance, is there risk that he won't work out? Sure. Does he even win the job? Probably, but he does kind of have to fight for the job. I think he wins it very easily. Sam Howell, who started one game last year against the Dallas Cowboys, throwing one touchdown, running for a touchdown, throwing an INT, but looking very, very dominant at times and, full of mistakes other times. But overall, he was fantastic. He was very, very good in his first NFL start. And in one start against the Dallas Cowboys, one start last year, Sam Howell captured the franchise record for most air yards on a single pass in his first game. And I mean, that just tells you that Washington is finally getting a guy with a cannon. And this wide receiver room, led by, I think, Dotson and McLaurin, is one of the more underrated wide receiver rooms in fantasy football or in the NFL. Now, looking at Dotson's game log from last year, he was very impressive in weeks 13, 15, and 16 against the Giants twice and then the Niners. Dotson had 9 receptions for 76 yards and a touchdown against the 49ers. And with Sam Howell in week 18, he had 3 catches for 72 yards. 3 touchdowns in these 3 straight games here in December, 54 yards, 105, 76. Week 1, this guy had 2 touchdowns and 40 yards. A very, very impressive start. Touchdown, kind of sporadic season. He didn't play weeks 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a really good year for a rookie wide receiver. And if you look at his numbers, again, played 12 games, 523, and 7 touchdowns. To get 7 touchdowns on 12 games with a quarterback rotation going. No good quarterback until the final week of the season when I think he got his good quarterback, Sam Howell, in the lineup, throwing him the football. 7 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns in week number 1. It's hard for a rookie to be that involved in week 1. That tells you how progressed he is in this offense, even from the jump. But I don't see a reason under the command of Sam Howell, who I do believe in, Dotson can't have an 80 reception type of season for 1,100 yards and 10 plus touchdowns, or 9 to 10, 9 to 12 touchdowns, 9 to 11. We'll call it 9 to 11. 9 to 11 touchdowns, 1,100 plus yards, and 80 receptions. I think that would be a phenomenal year for a guy taking over the number 1 wide receiver role in Washington, fighting up against a very good wide receiver we considered to be a low-end wide receiver all in his own right in McLaurin. I'm not saying McLaurin disappears. I think this team could have 2,000-yard receivers. Not a tall order anymore considering these guys play 17 weeks now. I love Dotson. I think Dotson to the moon. And the beautiful part is his ADP. Let me pull that up right now. The crazy part is on Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty, by the way. Use promo code Smitty. They'll match up to $100 on your first deposit. And this is where we draft. We do the live drafts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday if you want to get in on those. The link is in the description of every video, and that link will get you where you need to go. Don't miss out on drafting on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. It's a 3-day marathon every single weekend for us here at the Fantasy Football Show. And find out where you can steal this guy away in a best ball draft. He's wide receiver 38 on Underdog Fantasy Football ADP data, which is the best ADP data around. It's the only ADP I use because these are all people paying to enter the league. They're finishing the draft the entire way. They're not jumping in round 4 and letting the computer just pile on more bad ADP data on top of bad ADP data. This is all paying customers, so the ADP data is very accurate. Wide receiver 38 is absolutely crazy. That is 79.8 overall, his ADP. So if what I say is true, he gets 1,100 yards and 9 to 11 touchdowns and 80 receptions. He might be one of the biggest steals in fantasy football for all wide receivers. You're talking about Gabe Davis, Treylon Burks, Deontay Johnson. I do like George Pickens. Below him, Brandon Cooks. I mean, this is a territory where you're getting your wide receiver almost 4. You can ignore your wide receiver 3 in fantasy football and scoop him up to be your wide receiver 3. It's near league winning. The amount of value he kicks back to you, the ROI is through the roof. If I'm wrong, you easily earn your ADP back. If I'm wrong, he easily earns Brandon Cooks, Gabe Davis, Treylon Burks, Deontay Johnson type value with ease. This is the biggest no-risk monster upside play at wide receiver when you're talking about this late in a draft that I can find. And it's because of all of this that I'm going to add Mr. Dotson to a famous list we have here on the Fantasy Football Show called the Moon Men list.
The Moon Men, dropping loads in outer space.
Congratulations, Dotson. You are the man. You are a part of the Moon Men.
Space Monsters.
Moon Men 2023. You know, Dotson really reminds me of Watson, both Moon Men, both guys walking into their second years, both guys with young quarterbacks that need to prove themselves, both young guys capable of being force-fed volume because these teams, even if improved, even if these young quarterbacks look good, Jordan Love and Sam Howell, guess what? Third and fourth quarter, they still could be trailing in a lot of games. Both teams might struggle to even get close to making the playoffs, but they might improve and show flashes of brilliance. These two quarterbacks, Love and Sam Howell, Watson, Dotson, even McLaurin and all the other players on these rosters, they might show flashes of what is to come, but trailing in the third and fourth quarter, passing the ball a ton, these guys are both going to be in prime position, being in offenses that are competent, capable of moving the football down the field, capable of scoring a lot, capable of living in the red zone on a lot of occasions. That's what you want. You don't want a receiver that's in a bad offense that maybe they don't even get near the end zone. These teams might lose. These teams might not make the playoffs, but they will be trying very hard and doing very exciting things in their kind of rebuild years. These guys are very, very similar, and I think they could have very, very big seasons. Of course, you know I love Watson. Watson's a guy that is now going in the third, top of the fourth round, deservedly so, and he's an absolute monster. This guy is kind of the cheaper version of him, but could be near as good. And I want people to understand I'm emphasizing could be, but the cost of entry is so much further down, 80 overall versus being 3.5 round territory. It's such a different ROI, and you know, it makes him a little bit more bang for the buck, even though I do love paying whatever I've got to get Watson on my roster. I own both of them in a handful of Underdog Fantasy promo code Smitty leagues. Again, link is in the description. Make sure you click that link, get signed up ahead of time. They'll match up to $100 in your first deposit. And if you just deposit the minimum of 10, they'll give you 10. But you need to be signed up now so you don't get to the live draft streams that we do on Thursday, Friday, Saturday and be like, oh, how do I get in? Get in ahead of time so you can jump right in and don't miss out. I'm drafting Watson and Dotson together in a lot of those drafts as my wide receiver 2 and 3, and I absolutely love it. Now go make this man your number 3 wide receiver and go win a league. Get out of here.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.